So here's a short video to show you the answers to some of the questions in the 12 simple pieces, or rather 12 easy pieces pop quiz. And the interesting thing about this pop quiz for you is that you will be able to solve the current assignment as well as a bunch of bonus assignments very easily once you've got the answers for this. So there's also a solution PDF which you have been given as a handout in class, and an org file, problem org file. But for now I'm going to just use the notes, so you have a proper answer in the notes file. The very first question was: write function documentation for the following function, which gets input from the keyboard, puts it into a one-dimensional array of length m, and prints each value. And the array of length m, that was a distractor. That's actually completely irrelevant. This is the function declaration. You can see this because there are no names for the variables, only data types and an indication that we have an array, and no body of the function. So this is why it's a declaration. And we agreed that before a function prototype, it would be good to put some documentation. And this documentation should include the name of the function, it should include the purpose, it should include the return, whatever it returns, the return type, and the parameters. And the name is input, the purpose is store and print integer array values, and the return type is nothing, so it's a void function. And the parameters here are worth highlighting, namely we want to pass an integer array and an integer size of array. So those are the two things we need. That's it. Now the next one, write a function sum that takes an integer array foo of length n, sums of its elements, and returns the sums of the elements. Now what I'm going to do here is just really write the function to give you the proper definition. I'm not going to put in the main function and the examples, that would take too long. Just going to give you the answers here. So sum takes an integer array and returns the sum of the elements. If it returns the sum, then of an integer array, that means the sum of integers is always an integer, so return type is the sum is integer. The name is sum, and it takes an integer array whose name is foo, and the length of the array is also an integer called n. So that's the function definition. You can use this also as the function declaration at the top and put some documentation ahead of it, but this was not asked here. Here we really just want to define the function itself. And the function returns something, so we already know it's going to return the sum of the elements stored in this variable, which is also called sum. So that's the core of what the top says. Okay, now in order to go over an array of n elements and get the sum, we first of all need to define the integer for the sum. So we have sum, and at the beginning we have no elements, so it's 0. Then we need a for loop. The for loop can have its own loop variable, but it's nicer to actually define this up here, and then just use the start, the stop criterion, and the incrementer. Yeah, so this is the general structure. The keyword for, then a start point whenever I is equal 0, then an end point whenever I after being incremented is smaller than n, and then an incrementing I++. And I'm going to put this in brackets here, so this is another way you can work very easily. And by the way, every time you see me do this, I type Control-Alt \, and that will indent everything very nicely. And if I'm just on a line and I want to indent it, I can press Tab and it will jump to the right place. So now I'm going over the array, and what I want to do is I want to update the value of sum, not the function name, but the variable sum. And it's a bit unfortunate to name them the same, but it's okay. And we want to add each successive element of the array foo to form the sum, and that will do it. That's the answer. And in this case, you can also run this if you want, but then you'll see that there is a what is it? Oh, integer. Yeah, there is a mistake. So you should run it if you are in a computer, and I used integer here, and that's was my mistake. Yeah. Actually, results now. This is what I do when I only want to check the syntax, and so I get no warning messages. This is all okay. If the function is actually okay logically, so if the algorithm does what I want it to do, I can only find out once I put it in the main program and call it from the main program. But as it is, this is okay. Now, the mistakes that I saw in class is that you, in your notes, is that you, for example, pass on the array foo, and the name here, of course, is local to this function. This is not what the name in the calling function has to be called. But once you call it foo here, you must also call it foo here, because that's the array. Yeah, you cannot pick a different name like f here or something like that, right? This will not work. F is not defined, only foo is defined. The other thing people did wrong is a couple of people did something like this. And all this does is add 1 to sum every time the loop is completed. So, for example, if n is 5, this will be 5 and not the sum of the array elements. So I'm going to remove this back. Okay, so that's it. Let's close that and go to the next one. Write a function print that prints an array bar of length k using a for loop. So very same thing as before. We're going to start with the function definition right away. There's no return of any type because we're doing whatever the function is supposed to do inside the function, and then we just return, but without returning any value. So this is a void function. And it's supposed to be called print. And it takes an array, an integer array, bar, and I should have said here an integer array, actually. That is better. It could be another one, but of course that will very much change the printing. So I'm going to show how it changes that. So I have the integer array, and then I have the length, which is also an integer k. Then my function begins, and there's no return this time. So it just looks like this. The body is still empty right now. So I have a loop variable to go through my array elements, j, and I have a for loop, and I have a starting point, j equals 0, and I have a stop condition, j smaller k, and I have an incrementer, j++. And now my for loop begins. I'm going to close the for loop right away, not to forget any closing or opening. And then comes this print statement. Printf, the format specifier, I want to print an integer, then I put in the element j that I'm looking at every time I iterate. And that will do it. I'm going to run that again. I'm going to silence the result. and this also works. At least syntax-wise, it'll work. Now, what changes if I don't specify the data type? I will get an error. Bar is not known. But what I could do is I could specify it as float. And I'm not going to change this back because that was the original question. So the possible answer would also have been to have a floating point array, so array of floating point values, at least one floating point value, and then the format specifier should be changed from a D to a G. And that will also be a possible solution. All right, so let's look at the next one. Write a statement that prints a long integer variable I, the floating point variable x to precision 4, and a Boolean variable b. Again, I'm not going to put in the definitions of the variables. I just assume that they have been defined, and I'm going to only put in the printing statement itself. Now, to have bool, a Boolean variable, I need to include something special. I need to add to my includes std bool. Actually, better to do this inside here. So a couple of people remembered this, that if I want a proper Boolean variable, I need to include this header file. And then I can, provided I have the variables, I can put in the print statement. I'm going to just put that in here. Printf integer I equal %d. So that's the format specifier that I need for that. Float x equal %g. And that of course is wrong, namely I want precision 4. So I want floating point and I want precision 4. And then a Boolean, and the Boolean is printed as an integer, namely 0 or 1. So this is the answer. And if you want to actually run this command, then you of course need to put in values. I'm just going to do this here. And float x equal 3.4152. And you can actually put an f in here behind it as well. And then bool b equal true. And that'll do it. Okay, the next one. Declare a floating point constant pi with the value 3.141592. And many people did that right. Many people recognized, oh, floating point, float pi equal 3.141592. So this is what most people did. Then some people wrote float const, which will not work. And other people wrote const float, and that's the correct definition. Actually, I have to correct myself. As the compiler Emacs just showed me, both of these work. So I was actually until now under the impression that only this one is valid. But that's not true. So const and float can be interchanged here, which is cool. I didn't realize that at all. So you never stop learning. So both of these are fine. Not for the same variables though. So you have to do this. These both work. The other possibility, of course, which a couple of you remembered, is that you can also define them like this. So you can have pi 3, 3.141592. But then no semicolon. So that's possible as well. The difference is that these two here are actually unchangeable, while the preprocessor definition can be changed anywhere in the program. So, next one. Comment each line of this code. Easily done. for some reason, some people didn't count this one. This is a line as well, so you need to comment really every line of your code. So this is include I input output library or header file. This is the main function. No arguments, returns integer. And the integer it returns is this one. So if program completes, return 0. And this one, of course, is the beginning of the function body. So this is begin of main program. And this is the end of the main program. And in here we have a integer variable definition. We have a print a string statement. We have a get input get integer input. That's enough, really. I mean, you could say more about this if you wanted to, but get integer input from user or from keyboard. Really, what it does is from standard input. And this is compute result. And this is print result. And that's it. Okay. Write a nested for loop to iterate over. I'm actually going to close all the other ones. It's a bit disturbing to see them all open. Write a nested for loop to iterate over a 2x2 integer array baz. Let's have a look at that. So again, I don't want the entire thing. I only want to iterate over it. So you only need to write the for statements, and you can, of course, to remind yourself how it looks like, provide a declaration definition, but what you really need to do is to have two for loops, a nested for loop. So with one variable I that starts here, I'm just going to make it shorter, stops after two elements and increments, and then a second for loop that has a second variable, which could be the same. So the variable is local, so you could use the same loop index here if you wanted to. And then a stop condition and a, sorry, wrong variable here, that will not work. Smaller 2 and the loop variable. And inside of all of this, you have a print statement. And now, if you wanted to make it complete, first of all, you just print the formatter, and now you need some name for the array. So baz is the array, I, j. And then close the for loops. Yeah, so this would be a 100% answer for this question. If you wanted to print it like a matrix, you could put a new line in between here. That would be worthwhile doing, and you can of course have a definition as well. But that's what I just wrote already. That's all you need here. Yeah. So this is fine. Now I'm getting it to the format that I can actually print the whole thing. This will actually print it, which is not needed. Yeah, so this is a perfectly fine answer. Okay, next. change the following function so that the parameter signal can be passed by reference from the calling function. So almost nobody got that right. You are probably confused by this. In the calling function, I call Morse. So somewhere in here, I have a main function, int main void return 0, like that. Okay, and in here I have a variable signal, char signal, and I call the function Morse. Okay. So this function would work, or should work, this way. Let's see. Yeah, I didn't put a signal in, so I actually need to initialize it, I suppose, if I want to. So a signal could be this. That's a Morse signal, and that's the Morse signal. Yeah. Make this a little prettier. So this is the this works very well. What I meant to do is you can see that currently I'm calling by value. So this variable signal is copied. It just happens to be called signal up here, but it could be anything. I could call it S if I wanted to. This would still work. Okay, still work. So now I want to change this to pass by reference, and to do that, pass by reference, I need to send the signal as a reference. So this is pass address of signal, and what is received up here is now a pointer. But when I receive a pointer and I keep working with S, then I have a problem. So this one will not work. You can see %C, it says here, expects an argument of type int, but it gets a pointer argument. So you need to change all the uses of what you passed to the function also to pointers, or in this case a dereference pointer. Yeah, so this is a dereference pointer, which is the same as the value of the signal itself. Yeah, so you can go at this mechanically if you like, and this will actually run as well. But now we have pass by reference. Okay, next, almost done. Write a statement that prints IP and the double pointer PP below, and write after the slash, after the comments, what IP and PP each are. And you did that really well. So this is a integer variable. This is a pointer to the address of I, of the integer variable. And this is a pointer to the address of the pointer to I. So that's the double pointer. Now the print statement, you can do a bunch of different things. The easiest way is to print both addresses and values of integers anyway as an integer and not as a hexadecimal. So we're going to start with I equal, that's clearly an integer. Then we're going to do P, and P could be printed as a pointer address, but you can also use a D here. And start P, or the double pointer P, is also an integer, because the double pointer PP returns the same value as the indirected P, which is I, as you will see. So and then we have I, P, and star P. You get a warning at the bottom because it doesn't really like this. It really wants to have a hexadecimal address. So this is better, but the %D would work just as well. Okay. Right. Next one. For given integers a and b, complete the selection statement below. And this is a statement that says if this condition here is met, then the two numbers a and b are the same. And it follows that this statement is met if a is equal b. A few people forgot that this is the logical operator and not this. This is an assignment that puts the value of b into a, and this compares the values of a and b and returns a Boolean value. And that means that if this is true, we enter this first statement. They are the same. Otherwise, if it's not true, then we should get the statement a is bigger than b. And translated into variables, this looks like this. A is bigger than b. And the last possibility, we do not have to specify. We do not have to write else a smaller than b, because there are only three possibilities. A is either equal b, smaller or greater. And if we have exhausted the first two, the third one follows automatically. Yeah. So this is an example. It will not run as code, but it's perfectly beautifully formed. Okay, almost done. Write a while loop that prints your name 10 times before exiting. Again, different ways to do this. If you wanted to, I'm going to make the quick path. So we have a loop variable. That's the same loop variable that you see in the for loop inside the parentheses. Here it's outside because the while loop has the starting point of the while loop needs to be set before the while loop enters, and it only contains the stop value. Yeah, so this is basically the start. This is the stop condition, which has to be evaluated, and then when the stop condition is met, we enter the while loop and we print the name Marcus, and then and this is important, some people here put break in here, and break of course does stop this from being an explicit loop, an infinite loop, but it only prints the name Marcus once, because the while loop is only entered once and then it's broken. So that's no good. Continue would actually work here, but it's kind of redundant. So continue will give the right result. I've made some mistake. Oh yeah, continue would not give the right result. This would be an infinite loop, because it would just cycle through, because what we forgot is the increment. Yeah, so we need to increment in order to make sure that the while loop stops. So I takes on the values 0 to 9, and when it gets to the value 10 after incrementing, it goes out and stops. Yeah, so we don't need this, we only need that, and that gives you 10 names. Actually, this is too long to be displayed, so I'm going to make myself into a Joe. Okay, almost done. I'm going to get this done in, I think, 30 minutes. So we've tangled the source code file as main.c. Write the code necessary to compile it. For that we need the compiler. The compiler is called GCC. The compiler looks for a target file, that's main.c. That's the tangled source code file. That's a file you can look at. And then as an output file, this would actually be enough, because the standard output file, so standard output file is called already a.out. So this is a perfect solution. Another perfect solution is gcc main.c -o a.out. So here you are explicitly naming the output file, which in this particular case for a.out as an output file is not necessary. So this is explicitly create an output file a.out. Yeah, that's the answer here. All right, so much for Popquiz. Thank you.